God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Genesis 1:27. As we've explored in some past presentations like the universe and the creation of life episodes, as well as the young earth, it should be clear that this ministry endorses a young earth and the literal 6-day span of creation by an all-powerful and mighty creator God. And this episode will prove just that by revealing a record contained within the human genome. Through the analysis of mitochondrial DNA, or mtDNA, we will present findings that challenge the conventional evolutionary narrative and offer a radically different perspective on human history. If you currently subscribe to the theory that humans evolved from an ape-like ancestor approximately 200,000 to 300,000 years ago, the data we are about to share may profoundly alter your understanding of human origins. The following insights are derived from an extensive forensic study conducted by a professor of natural science, whose research has culminated in groundbreaking conclusions. These findings are so significant that we have dedicated an entire presentation to their exploration. This study contrasts two fundamentally divergent views of human history. One, the evolutionary model, which posits a timeline of roughly 250,000 years from the emergence of the first Homo sapiens to the present day. And two, this creationist model, which aligns with the Genesis account of creation and suggests a timeline of approximately 6,000 years leading to the present day. Big difference. When examining the Genesis account, depending on whether one reads the Masoretic text or the Septuagint, one can calculate somewhere between 1656 years to roughly 1900 years from the life of Adam up to the global flood. The human population is revealed to have increased exponentially, then wiped off the face of the earth, minus just 4 couples. The population then begins to increase exponentially once again, only this time for a much shorter period of roughly 300 years, leading up to the Tower of Babel account. Following this period, as we all are aware, this population is completely divided into family groups spreading across the world. These groups then grow independently in their own respective regions. This information is so crucial because the following analysis on mitochondrial DNA would need to reveal these bottlenecks of population growth at around that time. Therefore, this extremely specific pattern of population growths and decreases, along with its narrow and approximate range of people, should emerge in the study. By comparing to the evolutionary model, there would be, at the very least, 1,000 times longer, likely much more. And although Homo sapiens appears roughly 300,000 years ago according to their narrative, tracing mtDNA would stretch much farther back because it begins to appear in the first animals, but it does not appear in non-animal cells. Scientists are able to trace population histories through mtDNA patterns by examining the mutations that occur. Now, here is the key. mtDNA is only passed down through maternal inheritance because only the egg contributes mtDNA to the offspring, not through the male sperm. Therefore, what we see here is what we would expect when mapping out these isolated populations around the world over thousands of generations. If you were to zoom in to this map, you would see thousands or tens of thousands of generations in the vertical lines, spanning across the lineages globally, horizontally. In contrast, we see that biblical history begins with a single lineage from Adam and Eve to Noah's wife, narrowing directly above, so you should only see one dot because it is one lineage. But after the flood, humanity diversifies from one lineage to 3 branches. Noah's 3 daughters-in-law, represented by the 3 nodes you see at center here. This assumes that Noah's wife did not bear any more female children at her old age. So we then would see about 70 to 77 lineages to the time of Babel, where each column of lineage would correspond to a distinct language group. All 70 or so then move into the regions of Africa, Asia, and Europe, according to the biblical narrative. It is difficult to say how many or how large these groups divide into these 3 areas, but for the sake of fairness, the experts kept it equally divided. So, if we compare these 2 trees, you will see that the biblical tree is roughly 1/100th of the size of the evolutionary tree. Now, when we set these 2 mitochondrial predictions aside and reveal what the empirical mtDNA data actually tells us, we should be able to see it align with one of these 2 models, or at least much closer to one or the other, and it should be relatively easy for anyone to compare them. So, are you ready to see what the true scientific data reveals? Incredibly, we see alignment to the biblical prediction. And keep in mind, this data is speaking for itself. No distortions were made, no bias or partiality involved. Now, if that isn't enough, we can actually analyze this empirical branch closely to reveal how it compares to the prediction of the biblical tree. Take a look at this. First, the actual tree reveals around 84 primary branches, very consistent with the high biblical estimate of 77. Second, the longest of these nodes reveals as much as 39 mutations since Eve, while the prediction was as high as 36. Third, it reveals there truly were only 3 lineages from the single branch at center, matching exactly what was predicted. And finally, we knew that the geographic distribution would not likely be equal, but that they primarily broke into 3 regions of the world. So here we have it, what is probably the strongest, most compelling, and most conclusive evidence for the creation of man roughly 6,000 years ago, and nearly complete human extinction event, and an expulsion of people groups from one place to the world. It is a powerful confirmation of the scriptural account. This should tell you that the Bible has been correct all this time. And if you haven't already made the decision to abandon the naturalistic evolutionary worldview, then now is the time. Because since we have proven that the Bible is correct, then perhaps it is time for you to listen to the message it has for you. It is the time to listen to the gospel message, which I have put together for you. It will explain just why you need salvation and how you can achieve it right there where you are right now. The link is there in the description below. Do that, and I will see you in paradise.